Hello, this is Chuck Salvo with Ovatio Technologies. We are going to be talking today about Microsoft Teams and how to take it to the next level. This is part of our fall summit tour, our BrewTech tour. If you're at home watching this video, I'd suggest maybe cracking open a beer, sitting back, relaxing, and taking in what we've got to present. If you're at work, we might want to hold off on the beer. So with that being said, let's jump into things. First off, who are we at Ovatio? We are a Microsoft Cloud Consulting and Enterprise IT Staffing Services company. Focused on productivity, collaboration, data management, intelligence, application development, system integration. Really focused on the Microsoft stack and how to leverage the most out of Office 365, Microsoft Azure, and all the features and functionality that come with that stack. We are a division of Technology Services LLC, a trusted resource for staffing for over 20 years. So, Microsoft Teams, what is it? And do we really need it? So Microsoft Teams is really an amalgamation of multiple pieces of technology from Microsoft that have been developed over the years. We'll start with Microsoft Outlook, messaging inside of email, Microsoft SharePoint for document storage, OneDrive for personal storage, Skype for business, which brings along the audio and video capability, and really an application that is a framework for collaboration and communication. So with that, do you really need that? The answer, I think, is yes. Without a doubt, in today's world where information is moving so rapidly in different systems, how do you communicate effectively? How do you keep track of what's going on without using a tool like Microsoft Teams? Sending emails back and forth with attachments, it's a nightmare. Instant messaging in one platform, sending a file on that platform, where's that file going? Right? You're dealing with a lot of different data streams. So Teams solves that problem. Let's go over what some of the features are inside of Teams. One is a complete communication tool. It includes chat, voice, and video. It is a collaboration framework with multiple apps and technologies available to be plugged into the Teams tool itself, leveraging things like chat, voice, and video. Also includes document management, leveraging things like SharePoint and OneDrive. And lastly, it includes meetings, giving you the ability to schedule meetings inside of the Teams tool and leveraging the enhanced meeting capabilities of Teams. So with that, let's jump into the tool itself and let's actually go and give it a deeper dive. So right over here, this is the Microsoft Teams client. It's running on a Macintosh. So over here, we'll start from the left-hand side, giving you an overview of what's happening. One, we have activities. This is a place where users can be notified of activities inside of Teams. If someone mentions them, if someone assigns them a task, if someone's collaborating with them on a document, the activity shows up over here. Next up, we have the chat functionality. And over here, this is your replacement for Skype. It gives you the ability to have a rich environment to communicate with other users. Aside from the regular stuff like sending messages, we can go in there and use rich text. We can change delivery options. We can attach files. We can send even emojis, animated GIFs, memes, and even set up meetings, right? So I can do that all from my conversation, basically my chat window. I can also leverage other apps. So you see we have praise, stream, news, and I can add more over here by clicking more apps. Also in the conversation, you'll see over here, files. We'll come back to this later on. Moving on down, the Teams functionality itself by leveraging things like the team and channels. Each one of these is a different channel. Moving down a little bit further on the left-hand side, calendar. Again, surfacing up your Microsoft Outlook calendar, Microsoft Exchange Online. Next up, calls. The ability to actually dial numbers, make phone calls. Right? I've actually got a direct dial number right here. I can go out there and I can make a call using the plain old switch telephone network, your PSTN, or I can make calls to internal users. Right? And lastly, files. Over here, surfacing up my files from Microsoft Teams, as well as surfacing up my, once this finishes rendering, my OneDrive. So next up, we're going to talk about the conversation feature. For us, this is our easiest entry point to adoption. Roll out Teams, get users using the conversation feature. It provides dynamic communication, rich text, emojis, memes, GIFs, And it also supports one-to-one and channels. So you'll hear conversation, you'll hear chat. Basically, it's the same technology. Again, this is stuff that came out of Microsoft Skype. So with that, let's take a look at conversations. So if I go into the chat window, over here, conversations, you can see I'm chatting with Megan. And over here, she's sent me a nice little meme, and I'm going to send her a gift back and say, great. You'll see over here, because I have Megan's running in the Teams client over here, she gets notified. Oops, I think we need the mobile app. Over here, that Alan has now sent her that little animated GIF. So again, I can go in here, I can choose different GIFs, I can choose memes, I can attach files, OneDrive, I can use rich text editing, I can, hello Alan, I can make it colorful, right? I can go in here and make it red, and then send that off to him. And I can also go in here and book a meeting, right? So if I click here and schedule a meeting, let's see the schedule window comes up, and again, Megan's the organizer and Alan is the attendee. So some great stuff in there as far as chat, conversations on one-to-one. Now let's take a look at what happens inside of a channel, right? So again, channels have conversations, chat. You'll see over here, again, the AC1000 product team, Alan's in here. So same type of functionality, right? Rich text, GIFs, icons, GIFs, memes. We can do a meeting in here, right? So I can do a meet now with the team. So it's a little bit different. And I can also go in here and use other apps, right? I can do attachments, but you'll notice here, when I click on attach, you'll see browse teams and channels in OneDrive. So there's a difference there because I'm putting those files into a conversation. So again, conversations, group-centric, and also one-to-one, very powerful feature and something we love about Teams. Microsoft Teams meeting features. We can start with the integration with Outlook, how you can quickly and easily spin up a Teams meeting. We're also going to look at the Meet Now feature, as well as guest users, what that impact is for them as far as what they can interact in a meeting, and also leveraging the notes feature inside a meeting. So with that, let's get started with the integration with Outlook. So over here, I'm in Alan's account. I'm going to go and create a new event. This is just Outlook Web Access. I'm going to invite some attendees. I'm going to add Megan here. And we'll put it for tomorrow at 11 o'clock. And here's our integration, Teams meeting. Just by clicking that on right there, that takes care of everything you need. I'll hit send with this. And now it's going to go out there and it's going to create a meeting. So if I go look inside of Meg, and I click out into Teams, I go to calendar, there it is. By clicking on it, I can just join right into the Teams meeting. You also see over here, there's a dial-in number as well. Again, if you have an E5 plan, if you have the phone system, the dial-in capability is turned on by default. We'll go over that in a little bit. So now that we're in the Teams or the calendar area, if I go to create a meeting with another individual, again, I can go over here and do new meeting. Or I can also do a meet now, where I can go and basically spin up and join a meeting. So if I'm in here, there's a meeting, and I can go and invite people. So guest users, what happens with the guest user? If I go in there and create a new meeting, I can go in and add external users, right? They're an unknown attendee, but if I go in and invite that user, what's going to happen is that user can go in and do the video, audio, and conversation features inside that meeting. So pretty full featured. The only thing you won't be able to get in that is external users sharing files with you. And again, the reason why is because there isn't a spot to store that data. So there's no OneDrive, there's no Teams/SharePoint site for you to collaborate with just that user. So therefore, your external users are limited to just voice, video, and chat. And lastly, notes. So if we go locate this meeting over here. We join it. Shut off my ugly mug. Join now. If I click over here, there's a conversation. And then if I click over here, show meeting notes. Click on take notes. Here we are. Now we can take notes during the meeting. Adding more and more sections. Close that out. Hang up on that. Call quality was great. You'll see over here, here's our notes. All right, so demo for Teams, if there are any files, meeting notes right over here. So again, advanced features and functionality for a meeting. In the past, you would have had to go out there and capture notes, maybe in OneNote, then share the OneNote, or you take notes down in Word, and then you'd go share those notes with whoever's in the meeting. Now the notes are right as part of the meeting. Now we're going to talk about Microsoft Teams and the phone system features inside of Teams. This is a migration from the existing Skype for Business phone system capability and now included inside of Teams, again creating that complete communication and collaboration client. So with this, we can leverage the PSTN, basically the ability to have users dial into our organization, set up things like direct dial, using things like phone attendance and queues to create a full-featured PBX. So if you're a small to medium-sized business, you can now get your phone service through Microsoft by leveraging Teams. Great part about this that we really love is the Teams client, if you put it on a mobile device, now becomes that endpoint. So both your desktop and your mobile device are all included now as this voice endpoint without the user having to give up a cell phone number. If someone wants to get in touch with you, they can dial into the PBX and it'll connect them right to their phone, right to the mobile device. We're also going to talk about some licensing, what is the cost associated with this, and some of the limitations. So right off the bat, when we talk about this from a full-featured functionality thing, some of the enterprise features that you'd be looking at as far as advanced call handling, the ability to do more integration with the phone system, that's not quite there yet. So there's definitely some limitations, but if you're a small to medium-sized business with pretty straightforward call handling capability needs, I would definitely recommend this. So let's go into the system itself and take a look. So I'm inside of the Teams Administration Center. On the left-hand side, we have voice. This is all of our voice stuff. So I can do things like create phone numbers. So if I go over here to phone numbers, I can go over here and I can port numbers over. If I want to port them over from a different company, I'll cancel out of that. I have my order history. Looks like we purchased 10 phone numbers. And these are all my numbers over here. All right. Over here we have our call queues, so we can go in there and set up queues. Right? People can be part of those queues. We can set up greetings, we can do music on hold, we can set up call answering, and we have different routing methods. If I go over to auto attendance, I've got an auto attendant over here, and I can do my call flow, I can do flow during holidays, my resource accounts, and this will walk you right through actually creating this auto attendant. So some great features with that. If I look at the direct routing allows us to connect up to SBC, so session border control. So if you've already got a Cisco voice system and want to integrate Teams, you can do that. If you've got an existing voice over IP provider, you can leverage them with Microsoft Teams. So when we're talking about that licensing thing, one of the things we recommend is customers purchase Office 365, the E5 plan, because if you look at it, what do you get here? Make, receive, and transfer calls with phone system. So the phone system, again, gives you all these features, direct dial, call queue, and whatnot. The other piece here is that if you purchase this, you'll need a calling plan. And you've got two choices here. You can do direct routing, again, bring your own telecom provider, or you can purchase a calling plan that basically will get you domestic or international. So $12 a user per month for domestic, $24 for international. So right there, that gets you everything that you need. If you don't have the E5, you can also purchase just the quote-unquote phone system. That's an additional $8 per user per month. So between everything, you're generally looking about $20 per user per month, direct inward dial, conference capability, basically everything you need from a PSTN, as well as, like I said, the auto attendant and call queue capability. So great solution for those that are looking for a voice over IP phone system. About the Teams functionality itself. We're going to talk about how to navigate inside the application, what the command bar is and how to best use it, what channels are, what tabs are, and then lastly, we're going to talk about security and how that overlays the entire Teams functionality. So going into the Teams app itself, over here on the left-hand side, you have activity. So you'll see over here, this is your feed, my activity, anything that's going on, this is going to bubble up into your activity. Next up is chat, which we showed to you earlier, chat/conversation. Teams itself, the main core piece of the application. We'll come back to that in a moment. Calendar, calls, again, the ability, if you have PSTN, you can dial numbers, otherwise you can dial external people. Any of your files from your OneDrive and Microsoft Teams. And over here, the ability to also leverage other apps that are deployed. So for instance, Flow or Shifts a stream. And then if you click on more apps, this is really the App Store. We'll get to that later. Up top, we have the command bar. If I click on /, this brings up a list of commands that I can use. So if I do chat, it's going to ask me, who am I going to chat with? I'm going to chat with Megan. How's it going? Bam, sending my message. All right, if I click enter, it's going to bring me back to that chat. So the command bar is a great way to issue quick commands. You can also search with it. So if I click on Megan, it's going to find any messages that I have with her. It's going to find her in the people and anywhere in the files. So again, it's a combination of command and search. A great way to basically look for things across Teams. But again, understanding that this is the enterprise. Messages, people, and files. All right, so let's actually delve into the Teams functionality itself. Click on the Teams icon. What do I have? These are my teams over here. So the teams are at the high level. I can collapse them, expand them. And what I'm expanding is I'm expanding what's called channels. So if I go into the AC1000 product team and I click on research and development, what do we have in here? We have a channel. And inside that channel, we have tabs. So we have conversations, files, wiki. Over here, we've added notes. And then over here, there's additional applications. So a channel is comprised of the core functionality of conversations and files and wiki, and then any additional tabs that you want to add. So if I click on plus, I can add a tab. So understanding now the security model, how this all works together. Well, your chats are private conversations, right? Your calendar is your own. Calls are basically PSTN, the phone system. So really, the security is around two things. Really, files and conversations. And those conversations are the team-based ones. So security is held at the team level. So if I go in here and click on Manage Team, you'll see over here there's two things. There's owners and members and guests. Owners have the ability to add members. Members just have the ability to interact with the documents. Guests are external users. So what happens now is that this team right here has access across all the channels unless you create a private channel, which over here, you'll see that little lock icon that says private channel, priv channel. So when you go and create a team, go and create a channel, sorry. You now have this option of privacy here to say it's private to a certain group of users. If I click next, what's going to happen is it's actually spinning up a SharePoint site, and it's basically setting up its own set of security here just for these users. So I hit done in there, and again, private channel with the icon. The other members of the team don't see that channel at all. Okay. So that's a quick overview of the Teams application itself. So now we're going to talk to you about the document management experience inside of Microsoft Teams and talking about the two technologies that help support that, Microsoft SharePoint and OneDrive. And we're also going to be talking about the new user experience that's coming out inside of Microsoft Teams. So let's start with SharePoint. So if I'm inside of a team right here, I'm in the AC1000 product team. In the General tab, you'll see Files. What's happening here is this is actually being front-ended by Teams, but really the data is stored in SharePoint. You see the little SharePoint, the Teams icon, but really here's the link, right? So if I click on Open inside of SharePoint, this brings me to the document library and the folder for the team. So kind of going backwards, if I click on Documents over here, you'll see all these different folders, and those correlate right there to all the different channels. Now, one thing to note here is that if you're using private channels, this will not show up in that same SharePoint site. And you can see over here, there's a little icon. So if I click on this private channel over here, and I click on Files, and I click on Open inside of SharePoint, you'll see it's a different URL completely. Right? Over here, AC1000 product team. Over here, AC1000 product team - priv channel. Because again, the channel name over there is priv channel. Same thing if I went over here into Tests, clicked on Files, said Open up in SharePoint, you'll see that same type of naming convention, ACC-1000 product team - test. So that's your integration inside of SharePoint with Microsoft Teams. So the next part on that is really OneDrive. So if you think about it, OneDrive is when you're personally sharing files. Teams and SharePoint are really more of a group situation. So if I click over here into Files, you see a couple things. First one here is Teams. If I click on this, and this is showing me all the files that I have access to across SharePoint. So it's making a cross-site query, going across and finding all the files that are out there that are available to me inside of Microsoft Teams, which again is really inside of SharePoint. You'll see it here in the location, right? Sites. If I scroll down, all these different sites. If I click on OneDrive over here, here's my OneDrive files, right? So again, kind of surfacing it, if I say open OneDrive, this brings me into OneDrive. So again, if you think back to the conversation piece, OneDrive and SharePoint are really the places that if you're doing and adding attachments and sharing with users, these are the places it gets stored. So one thing I want to talk about before we finish here is the new file experience. You'll see over here inside this image, I'm inside of a document, I'm inside of a team, inside of a channel. Clicking on the File tab over here, you see images, right? So if we scroll up a little bit more, this is from Microsoft, you'll see what's happening here. All these different things are coming inside this rich file experience. And by the time you're watching this video, they should be rolling this out pretty soon. And I think it's going to be a huge help for everyone that has to deal with files inside of Teams. So now we're going to talk about the mobile experience inside of Microsoft Teams. What does it look like? What are some of the best practices? Understanding how to set up other applications inside of Teams, and also some of the limitations. So with that, let's actually go right into the mobile. So right here, here's my iPhone being presented on my desktop. I'm in the Teams client itself. If I click on the channel, it renders pretty good. You see all the communication up there. If I click on Files, I'm able to get right to my files. If I click on a Word document, you'll see over here, it's going to actually bring that Word document right up. And again, I haven't left that Teams client at all. I can even go in there and edit it if I want. But what's going to happen here is by editing it, it's going to shell out, right? So it's going to bring up the other apps inside of Microsoft Office that are supporting Teams, right? So there's Microsoft Word, there's Excel, there's PowerPoint. Those applications, really, to make this experience best for the users, those applications should be deployed to your mobile devices. So that's where we talked about the MDM, the mobile device management. If you're looking to successfully deploy Teams, you really want to package up all the apps that you're supporting. Right? So if we go back into the Teams client again, and I'm inside of my channel, and we'll go into production over here. If I click on more, you'll see over here I've got a wiki, right? The render's fine. But if I go into into Planner, what happens? I'm now launching the Planner application. So again, when you're talking about rolling out Teams, what you really want to do is you want to have what you need for all the different pieces to support it. So think about that when you're rolling out your product. Chat renders the same way, right? Same thing, files, capability. Click on more if there's anything else. But it's very fast, very efficient, and it creates a great endpoint for your users for all the Teams functionality. They don't necessarily need to have the full-blown client. They can do the vast majority of what they need to do inside the Teams mobile application. Again, this is supported on iOS and Android, constantly being updated by the Microsoft team, and from our experience, we've had some great experiences with it. So now we're going to talk about apps inside of Microsoft Teams. What are they? What's available out of the box? What are some of the limitations of built-in apps? And also understanding what are custom apps. So let's go into Microsoft Teams. Over here, and if we're inside of a team, you'll see up top we have tabs. Well, tabs are apps. Apps are a general category of functionality that allows you to extend and enhance the functionality of Teams. Each team itself and each channel has a bunch of different apps. There's out-of-the-box ones like Conversations, the Files, and the Wiki, and then there's additional ones. So if I click on the plus, you'll see here I can add a tab, but what are those tabs? They're really apps, right? But they're designed around being used as a tab. All right, so if we go a little bit deeper into the apps, and again, you'll notice here I'm inside of a team, I'm inside of a channel, but if I go into chat, if I'm chatting with Megan, I can also add tabs and apps. So again, anywhere that there's interactivity, you can add apps. You can add apps and just fire them off from here, right? So I can go into Microsoft Flow, bang, it's an app, it's in the menu system, right? So, moving further on, going into the Apps button, you'll see the whole slew of apps that are available inside of Microsoft Teams, and these are being added to constantly. And they have different categories. So the first one is that I want to talk about is bots. Bots are a way for you to communicate with a bot. And there's a whole bot framework, and you can build conversations with bots. I'll give a demonstration of that later on. Next one is tabs, like we've seen before. Different functionality here. Connectors. Connectors are another form of apps that allow you to send data back into Microsoft Teams. You can go in and sort things by analytics and BI, education, human resources, sales and support. And if you wanted to, you could even upload your own custom app, which is pretty slick. So you're seeing here that Microsoft is really giving you the ability to go ahead and extend the use of Teams. It's not just files and conversations and, calendaring and phone calls. It's about adding applications into and where applicable, whether it's a private conversation or whether it's a team conversation, or whether it's an app you're just using yourself, like Microsoft Stream. So a couple of limitations when we're talking about some of the problems with apps. So built-in apps, for instance, if we go in here and we're going to go into files, right? We're going to go in here and we're going to use PowerPoint. So this is kind of a built-in app, right? So what's happening here is that it's not going to give you the full-fledged functionality, right? So just think about that. Think about the functional levels that you need to support. Sometimes you're better off to just take this file right here and open the desktop app. Right? So this is really the web-based version of the PowerPoint app, but each app has limitations. Some are full-fledged functionality, but be cognizant of the app and understanding where the app is running. Is there a difference between the app running in the browser versus running a mobile device? So with that being said, hopefully that explains a little bit more about how apps can help teams become a more valuable and powerful tool. Now I'm going to talk about taking Microsoft Teams to the next level by leveraging things like connectors, bots, custom apps, all on the goal of creating a single pane of glass for a team. Again, team-centric view, team-centric set of apps, right? So jumping back into Microsoft Teams, if I go over to the AC1000 product team and I am in the research and development channel, you'll see again we have the basic conversations, files, wikis. We've gone in and added notes and meeting notes, but more importantly, we've gone in and created a Power App that's specific for this team. So we've created functionality to allow them to gather some product ideas. So if I click on the plus over here, they're going to work on a new engine design. That's going to be a large effort. Approver, Meg is going to approve it. ROI is going to be $10 million. And we're going to hit accept there. And that's going to go in there, and what's going to happen is, here we are, new engine design. So it's right there available to all the members of the team to see this power up and see this data. Also in this team, we've gone in, and this channel I should say, and we've added a Power BI tab. So what's happening here is we're basically embedding business intelligence into that channel. So again, transactions, conversations, files, business intelligence, and more if we needed to. We could just keep adding, right? We can go add more and more functionality. So one of the things that we did add in here, if we go back to the conversation, is we've added a connector. We've added a connector from their SharePoint site. So if we go over to the SharePoint site, and we have news over here, we're going to say, let's add a new post. We'll do basic text. We're going to create the page. We're going to name our post, "No idea on gas engine." Right? I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm going to post this news. So if you look at it now on that home page, and again, SharePoint integration with Teams, news. So this news is up here. And when it comes to the AC1000 product site, it's going to see this news item. But now if I go over into Teams, what's going to happen is momentarily is that the connector is basically going to fire off. And we're going to see something coming from that connector into our conversation so that we can see that there's been news has been posted. So if someone isn't a constant user of the SharePoint site, but they're following up on the SharePoint information, there you go. You just saw that come right into the conversation channel. And again, that's leveraging a connector. So really, when you're looking at Teams and looking at how to deploy it, think about how you can make that single pane of glass for that group or that team and give them the most functionality possible. Teams supports it. Lastly, we're going to talk about rolling out Teams. So you've gone through the slides, you've seen all the different capabilities and functionality of Teams, you're super excited, you really want to get this out into the organization. Some organizations just simply turn it on. We don't recommend that. That's kind of the creation of the Wild West. So start with putting together a governance team, understanding how you're going to roll out Microsoft Teams, understand what features you're going to support, understand naming conventions, understand training requirements based on what you're deciding to use inside of Microsoft Teams and what your team is going to support. Perform a pilot. Get a single group, get a champion, perform a pilot with that group. Help them do the single pane of glass. Get them trained, understand what complexities are going to run into. Get them really using Teams to the best they can. Learn from that. From that, work on training. Put together your training, customize to, again, what your governance is. Roll that training out. Next up is adoption. You're going to roll out Teams, the users are trained. Let's get them adopting the solution. Support them on that. Give them challenges, make sure they're using it. And leverage the reporting inside of Microsoft Teams. Work towards that goal of reducing internal email and improving conversations, chats, and interactions inside of Teams, because you know and you believe, hopefully after watching this video, the Teams truly is a great collaboration and communication tool and really is going to help your organization become more effective at their jobs. Well, I hope you enjoyed our presentation on Microsoft Teams. If you're in the area, please attend one of our BrewTech events. Again, we are Ovatio. We are a Microsoft Cloud Consulting and Enterprise IT staffing firm focused on productivity and collaboration, data management intelligence, application development, and system integration. If you have a question about Teams, give me a shout. csalvo@ovatiotech.com.